Hey there. Welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 75. I'm Mike,
I'm Chad.
and the toys we're going to talk about today are some new G.I. Joe classified figures. Exciting.
Very exciting. They seem to come in spurts.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago we did a
It's like
video,
3 weeks, maybe.
and even since we did that video, I did my Dragonfly
Yeah,
video. So that was the helicopter with 4 more figures. And now we have another 10 figures to talk about today. So, yeah. But first, how are you? I haven't seen you in a little while.
I'm good. I think the last time we saw each other was the John Jones fight, maybe. It's like,
Yeah, so that would have been the night we shot those videos, I guess.
yeah. No, I've been stretched a little too thin. I'm in the process of taking over a business. So for our loyal viewers, um, I purchased my Taekwondo club. So I'm taking that over on February 12th. So I've been, busy getting that stuff in order and everything, and yeah, busy working. So
Yeah.
not much downtime, unfortunately.
Yeah, that sucks, I
Yeah,
guess.
and I haven't been buying toys. Like everything I have is literally stuck in my pile of loot at Big Bad Toy Store right now.
Yeah.
I've got about 13 things waiting, so I got to ship soon. The problem is I don't. Canada Post is on strike.
Mm.
I do respect their ability to strike. I'm super pro union, not to get too political here, but
Yeah.
I don't want to ship and pay
It's
the extra
it's
and
not
then get
much more.
dinged. No, but
Did you check? You can do it. Like, if you said, ship my stuff now, and then it would give you the option, it'll say, Canada Post, $50. And then if you say FedEx, it'll probably say $54.
yeah,
And then you can just back out and not ship. But like if you want to at least get a sense of how big the difference is. So the FedEx, it also gets here faster,
quicker. Yeah.
but you still get dinged on those customs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's get into these GI Joes.
These Joes.
Yeah. So we have, I think, kind of a full wave of figures, and then we've got a bunch of kind of little one-off stuff. So maybe we'll start with one of the one-offs, which I thought originally was part of a wave because we pre-ordered Retro Card Cobra Commander, Retro Card Stalker,
Stalker. Yeah.
and Retro Card Cobra Trooper all at the same time. So I thought they were all going to hit at the same time, but then they came out very staggered because we've had the other two for a while. But we finally got our Cobra Troopers. So they are on that retro 80s style explosion card with the classic file card on the back. And you know what? I don't really need what are your thoughts on file cards, by the way?
I don't need them.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, but the only problem is sometimes it doesn't matter how careful you are trying to take that bubble off.
Yeah.
It gets destroyed. Specifically with the older cardboard ones, the floppy cardboard.
Yeah.
These are a little easier, but trying to take the bubble off, it would rip the other side, and then it's like, well, that's useless now. The nostalgia's nice.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I have all my filed cards from when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I always used to cut them off the box for the first maybe 2 years, and then by year 3, I was just saving the entire card back. Although I wish I knew that box cutters existed when I was a kid because I would always rip the bubbles off. So even though I was intentionally saving it because I liked the card art, it's always kind of destroyed. And it's got that torn paper look, so it looks like a caveman opened it. And I'm like, I wish I knew I could just slice the bubbles off. So yeah, I saved those cards. So now I've had all those file cards for 40 years now. And there's like a market for it. Like people online shop for them, and some people pay premium prices for them. But I'll be honest, sometimes I'm tempted to just get rid of mine. Like I wouldn't just straight up throw them out, but I'd probably give them to somebody for dirt cheap if they want. It's just because back when you were a kid, you thought if I throw this package out, I'll never see this picture ever again, and it's a cool picture. But nowadays, you can just like Google it. Same as the file cards. The file cards used to have really cool information because if I threw out the packaging with the file card, I would forget what their real names were, because every GI Joe has the real name on the back of the card, and you wouldn't have reference material. But now there's reference material, and the cards are kind of redundant. So I guess it's cool that they put them on the back of the retro packaging, but the cards are also, there's hardly anything to them now because they write them in like 6 different languages.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, now we're Canadian, so they were always bilingual. It was English and French, but still, there was still a lot of room to like tell a little story and give some background on the character. But with these 6 languages on here, there's no room to do anything other than like the very basic stuff. So anyway. But anyway, this is we've got several Cobra Troopers before this one. So how do you feel about this one? Better, worse than the previous ones? What do you think?
Well, you probably know what I'm going to say. I love my blue shirts, and this guy is a welcomed addition. I
haven't opened one and a sealed one.
Yeah, I actually opened. No, I didn't open mine yet, but I did order another.
Oops.
I did order another 2.
Oh yeah. So how many are you going to have in total?
Oh my god, I think I have like 10 now. But some of them are Python Patrol.
But of this specific figure,
I'll have 3.
3. Okay. Now, I do like army building troopers, and of all the Cobra Trooper types, the kind of standard blue shirt, which is like the basic infantry, is kind of the one you want to build the most. Although I would prefer to not buy the exact same figure more than once, like I have here. I would rather them release this guy with like a red mask instead of a black mask, and then maybe in a lighter shade of blue, or I want them to be a little different, so I don't feel like I'm completely throwing money away by buying the same figure multiple times. I did that a lot more when the figures were 3 3/4 inches and they were a lot more affordable.
Yeah.
But now that these figures are costing us like $40 a pop, I cannot build whole squadrons.
No, but I'm a fan of this version. It would have been nice to have, in the sense of customizing. I know they probably will never do it with retro carded, but the additional head, like a different skin tone, because then at least you can vary it up.
Yeah, that would have been cool to give us the different skin tones. One thing, my thoughts on this guy is like he is the most accurate to the vintage toy, which it should be because it's on a retro card. It's supposed to look like the vintage toy. But I feel they copped out on this one a little bit in that he still has a very textured outfit, like all this kind of padding on it, whereas the vintage toys didn't have any padding. It looked like they could have just been wearing blue pajamas. Yeah. And now the fact that this one, it has all this kind of piping and padding and textures and details. I don't mind it. I don't think it looks bad, but we already have a couple of troopers with that same body. I kind of thought, like, you know what, maybe they'll simplify this guy and strip down some of those designs. And I don't like the color of this guy's eyebrows. I feel they blend into his flesh too much.
I thought the same thing.
He's got like blonde eyebrows, and I don't think it looks good. I wish they just gave him dark eyebrows. So, anyway, he's good, but I don't know if he's my favorite version of the blue shirt that we have in the classified line, but they're all pretty close. It's
super close. Yeah. He's up there, but I'd give him like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Any more thoughts on him?
Not on him. I'm going to say the same thing about every single blue shirt. I love them. I can't get enough of them.
All right. So now this is another. Yeah, we get these figures. I thought we would get together, but we actually got them kind of staggered. They came a little while apart. But these are some of the 60th anniversary figures. So we previously got 2 60th anniversary sets. We got the Diver and the
Desert Trooper.
Desert guy, yeah. And so the whole idea behind them is that it's the 60th anniversary of the 12-inch G.I. Joe doll from the 1960s. And those characters didn't have unique names. They were just a Marine and a diver and a soldier and whatever. So these G.I. Joes don't have names. I kind of wish they did, but whatever. If I got these when I was a kid, I would just give them names anyway. So first we get this guy. So do you remember what he's the Halo?
The Halo jumper. I can't remember what that.
It's high altitude, low opening, I believe.
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah. So these are the guys that jump out of planes, and I'll let you talk. What do you think?
I haven't opened mine yet, but like I'm loving these 60th anniversary ones. All the accessories they come with, like so much you can do with them. I'm more excited about the next one we'll talk about, but this
Yeah.
guy's super cool. Like I appreciate how much detail went into these. I don't know specifically um, too much about the 60th, like the original 12-inch dolls,
Yeah. Me neither,
because that was
really.
before my time. But like this would definitely look like something in the 12-inch scale I would play with as a kid.
I feel there's a that's what she said or something in there. But
Yeah, sure. That's what she said. I mean,
yeah, I think this guy's super cool.
backpack has weight to it.
Backpack, because that I would have been his chute, I guess,
Yeah.
which I'll talk about in a second. But this guy does have some nice display options. Now he only has, I think, just the one head,
Yeah.
but he has a couple different helmets. So like right now, I have him kind of in a standard military helmet, but then he has this, I don't know,
Jump helmet.
jumper's helmet, I guess, and it's got that huge black visor that comes down, and then he's got his little breather mask, and you can plug that in. And what's interesting with this guy is that once you get his mask on and his helmet on, he looks like the G.I. Joe Ripcord.
Hmm.
Because Ripcord is a character that they hadn't done in the classified line yet. And he's a classic, character from the early years of G.I. Joe, but he was a Halo jumper that wore green camo and he had the full face mask and the big helmet. So when you see this figure, I'm like, yeah, this would be a good stand-in for Ripcord. Now, in my last G.I. Joe video, I showed you that I got Night Force Ripcord that came with the helicopter. And he does come with the same helmet as this guy, the same breather and all that sort of stuff. But the fact that this guy's in green camo, this actually looks more like Ripcord.
Then Ripcord looks like Ripcord.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, are you familiar with the G.I. Joe character Hit and Run? He's a guy. He's a mountain climber, but he had green. His face was green with black lines on it. Like he had full.
I probably know him to see him.
Yeah. So he's another character that I bet there's people clamoring for. He's a fan favorite. But when I look at this guy, he looks like he could be Hit and Run essentially, because he's got that totally green face. You can't see any flesh tone on this guy because it's all painted up right to his hairline and everything.
You had him on display here with your 3 3/4, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I had a couple hit and runs.
Yeah. Figures, not.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is a cool figure for just what it is, but it also works to fill a couple holes in our collection for characters like Ripcord or Hit and Run while we wait for standard versions to be released. But yeah, I really like the camo deco on him. It's multicolors. It's like two shades of green, brown, black,
gray. I think gray.
I don't think there's any gray in there, but you're colorblind.
Colorblind, so it looks gray to me.
He's got the little upsheath knife that you like.
I know. It's just a really nice figure. He feels really stiff too. Like he's
solid.
Solid. He's gonna stay put. He fits on the stand nicely, from what I could tell when I was holding him.
Yeah, it comes with a nice display stand, which is appreciated. Not enough G.I. Joes come with them. And then the other thing that he comes with, which is cool, but I don't have a whole lot of use for, really, is
the chute?
The parachute, which I've already got tangled up with a bunch of other stuff over here. But yeah, so he's got this parachute, which you can fold out, and it's a pretty good size chute here.
Yeah.
And so this attaches to him. Now, I think it said right on the packaging, this does not work. Don't throw it off your roof. He is not going to land safely.
A bunch of 42-year-old plus men doing.
Well, did you have the parachutes when you were a kid?
No.
So I had the original Sky Striker jet. And it had 2 ejection seats that had parachutes that were with little plastic. They felt like garbage bags, and they were crumpled. You could put them in the back of the chair. Now, it didn't work automatically. The seats didn't actually eject and open, but you could take the seat out, and the parachute was stuck to it. And I remember my Tiger Force Roadblock. He was the back of the chairs had a little plug, just like the backpacks do, so they would sit in the chair, and then you could throw them up in the air, and the chute would open, and they would drift down. It worked to a degree because there was no seat belt.
Right.
So I remember once as a kid putting Tiger Force Roadblock on one of my parachutes, and I whipped him up in the air, so he had a good height. And I think I was on my deck too, so he was the height from the deck, and then he was landed down on the grass down below. Anyway, it was like at the height of the arc. I just see him come like, oh, he separate from the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the chair came down nice and safe. But poor Roadblock smashed on the ground, and he's still in pieces to this day because he broke. He's my most broken GI Joe.
Okay.
Most GI Joes broke in the standard way, like their thumbs would break, their crotches would break, or the O-ring would snap. But his torso split in two, and his head was loose. So he was just a mess of parts. So poor Tiger Force Roadblock. I learned the hard way. Don't try to use these parachutes for real.
The more you know.
Yep, we need one of those.
I just did that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the skills to animate it, so okay. I can put up a still image. But maybe they know. Is that a
Yo Joe?
All right, so you want to talk about the other 60th anniversary figure? Now, I don't know if this is how I'm going to display her or not, but they call this the Marine Sniper, I think?
Marine Sniper.
So this is a chick, and she's got a bunch of cool shit. I'll let you...
I love the accessories that came with this Marine Sniper. I probably won't display her with the white head. I think she looked better with the African American skin tone, was it?
Yeah, or Latino.
A darker skin tone. I liked her better with that. But like the helmets and the hats and the hair options and everything.
Yeah.
And then especially the ghillie suit. Like we had a ghillie suit with the desert one, but right. I think this one is a lot better.
Yeah, so like she's got a sniper rifle with a sniper case. It's
just like low light.
Yeah, just like we saw with low light. She's got a big old pack, which I'm sure we've probably seen with somebody else before too, for her back. She's got a bunch of accessories. So did the other 60th anniversary. He has more guns than I know what to do with. So yeah, this girl has two distinct heads. Mm-hmm. And because she's wearing fingerless gloves, she has two sets of hands.
Yeah, which is neat.
Which match the skin type, which is a good. It would be a bummer if you wanted to display her with a black head, but she had Caucasian hands. Yeah. That'd be weird. So yeah, you've got your choice of colors. Now, in the package, she did come with the darker skin tone. And then she's got like kind of a headband or bandana. Yeah. And she's got some camo on her face.
Or is that maybe even indigenous?
Maybe. But I like that head sculpt too. But the only thing with that one, about why I think I'm going to display this figure with the Caucasian head, is that we previously got the female dark-skinned sniper shooter. So it seems kind of weird that I would have two dark-skinned female snipers on my squad. You saw me mention it when I posted this on Instagram that I kind of want to buy a second one so I can actually display both. And I think you said I want to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I might still. But it is currently early December when we're filming this. And we were talking online earlier today, and for the last couple of days, really, it's a little frustrating seeing all the sales. Like, there's so many Black Friday sales on, like, Amazon and at GameStop. And so many of the figures that we've told you guys about over the past 12 months are now discounted 25%, 30%, 40%. And I am kind of like, like, why did I... So when it comes to buying a second figure like this, I'm like, I might do it, but I'm certainly not going to do it at full price. I will maybe wait 6 months and see what she's marked down to.
Yeah, that would be my approach too. I mean, that's the problem with collecting, though. You never know how many they're going to put or if they're going to refresh the stock or anything like that. So
yeah,
it's trial by fire, and I know it always ends up not in our favor, and they usually do like restock them or discount them, but
yeah,
you never know at the time.
You never do.
Yeah, she's solid. I haven't opened mine yet. I'm waiting on some shelving I asked Santa Claus for. So
well, hopefully he comes through.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he comes through. Otherwise, I'm working through my backlog of stuff that I acquired while I was off work, and
I do just want to mention too. So when you put the Caucasian head on her, the whole hair lifts off. They've done that a few times with like Lady J and with Zarana. So there's one hairdo that's got a little like buoy hat. What would you call those things? Like
Yeah, I know what you're talking
a
about.
little hat
Yeah.
like with a string on it.
It's like it's almost like a safari hat, but
Yeah, a safari
with
hat, a bolo hat. I
yeah,
don't know, whatever. But anyway, so she's got that head, or she's got this head that's got a ball cap, and the sunglasses are permanently affixed.
which is nice.
So it's a hat, headphones, and sunglasses, and a ponytail. I think of the two different looks for the white head, I like that better. So I think this is probably how I'm going to display her on my shelf. And then when I get a second version, then yeah, I might put the darker skin tone on her. But a pretty solid figure.
Yeah, she is definitely one of my favorite 60th.
Oh, and I guess we didn't even. I'll show you guys in the insert, but this is the ghillie suit. So it's like
Looks like grass. It's cool.
yeah, it looks like grass. I really could probably hide her up in one of my house plants upstairs, and my wife wouldn't spot her for a few days.
Elf on the shelf, except it'd be Joe in the.
I don't know, but yeah, I think this is the best ghillie suit we've seen. Because yeah, you mentioned the one with the desert guy, but it was more like just a blanket.
Yeah,
It didn't have this texture to it. Also, the Action Force toy line, they've recently done ghillie suits, I think less successfully. They did do a couple of ghillie suits in the 4-inch I.Joe line. They weren't bad, but this is definitely, I think, the best ghillie suit I've seen.
yeah.
Um, but as cool as it is in concept, I still think it looks a little silly. So I don't think I'll display her on my shelf like this. Maybe if I buy two of them, one of them will be in the ghillie suit. But like it would look good in a diorama if I put her in a plant. But when she's just
You
standing
don't
there,
have dioramas.
when she's standing there on the shelf wearing this thing, she looks like just as big an asshole as Snow Job and Wetsuit in there, like or Torpedo. You know, Torpedo's wearing his
Yeah,
wetsuit with his like flippers on, and Snow Job's got his hood on. And it's like they look out of place, and this thing looks a little out of place just standing on a shelf. But cool figure.
super cool figure.
All right, let's do the wave of figures here now. So let's start with you're a ninja guy. What are your thoughts on Storm Shadow?
Love them, and I had to go to you for my background because I when I was born, Joes were really just coming out. So by the time I came around to Joe's, it was kind of like secondhand market. They weren't making as many.
Yeah.
Would have been around 87, 88 when I was 5 years old. So I didn't know too much about this guy. I'm like, I didn't realize he joined the Joes for a little bit, and then you fill me in on the backstory.
Yeah.
I love this outfit on him. It's super cool. I can't have enough ninjas. They're like blue shirts, but
Yeah.
again, I still have an open mind. But seeing this guy, I love the dual blades right here on the side. Most of the Storm Shadows have them on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool to have that right there.
Well, he's got. Do I have it here? I don't know. He's got a crossbow. It's a compact bow or something.
Yep.
And I think that's supposed to snap on his back, but I can't get it to. I can't find a way to get it to snap.
Probably
where it will
right here.
stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't really latch on. So I can rest it there, but then as soon as I pick him up, it falls off. There's probably a way to make it lock in place, but I haven't figured it out yet. So yeah, his bow goes on his back. His swords are on his hip. And then the coolest thing this guy has is the Wolverine claws.
Yeah. Which actually slide nicely into place, so it's like he's gripping them.
Yeah, because we saw those same claws on Raptor.
Look terrible.
But they don't go all the way around his finger, so they kind of stop here. So the claws are always kind of turned inwards. But this guy's, the claws goes right over the back of his hand, so they go straight. So they look like how they're supposed to look.
Did he come with an alternate head? No. Okay.
The head is So I have a couple things with this figure.
Yeah.
So just for those, in case you guys don't know, so Storm Shadow is often associated with the bad guy ninja, but and he was when the first toy came out, he was the bad guy ninja. That's how he was introduced in the comic books and the cartoons. But then in the comic books, they expanded on his storyline, and we found out that he was really a good guy, and he had been like brainwashed, and there's all kinds of background I won't get into. But eventually he got over all that and he joined G.I. Joe. And when he did, he donned this outfit. So he got this look with the hood and with the kind of digital camo. That was from like 1988. And so that's what's weird. When I refer to this figure, I don't know what to call it because I'm so used to, for years and years, people just refer to this as version 2 Storm Shadow. But in the classified line, this is like the 6th Storm Shadow or something. So to say it's version 2,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. I guess we could call it Good Guy Storm Shadow, or I don't know. But so it's cool to get this guy. But for one, I think he feels like a little short, just a hair short than other figures in the line. I don't really know if that's true, but like if I put him up to another guy,
I would have liked to have seen
I feel he's just a smidge too short.
An option with this. Like, does this come off the hood?
And no,
okay. So I would have liked to have an option where the hood can come off.
Yeah.
We've seen that with like Zartan and Raptor, I think, has the hood that can come off. It just kind of goes down and meets.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. So when the original 88 figure came out, he did have a permanent hood sculpted to his head. But it didn't sit nearly this low. Like, this hood comes down almost right over his eyes, so you can barely see his eyes. And it had a lot more room to breathe in the original version. And not just the original, because they've redone this look several times.
Yeah.
And every version of him before, he's got the hood is like up on his brow.
Yeah.
And so now they've put it way down. And it's like, why did they do that? I don't necessarily think it looks bad, but it's different from every other version. Plus, he's got this really busy belt. He's got all these pouches, like something like Rob Liefeld would draw, pouches all across the front, and then these kind of skirt pieces and rope pieces and all this shit hanging on the front of him, which was not on the original version.
Stormpool.
Yeah. And also the ninja claws. Now, this is a good thing, I think, but the original one only had one set of claws. This guy has 2. So because of all these differences, I could definitely imagine they're going to do a retro card version of this guy down the road, and he won't have all the busy extra stuff on him, and maybe they'll even give him a different head.
You know what I would like to see in a head? I would like to see like a normal Storm Shadow head.
Yeah.
But with a clip-on piece that can go underneath the head that looks like his hood is pulled back and it's just resting there.
Yeah.
That would be a cool option.
Like I have
someone has that.
Yeah.
Is it Snowjob?
I think Snowjob might. I have a Wolverine figure that's like that. I think I might have a Spider-Man that's like that, where you can, it's kind of, just like a mock, as if you pull his mask down over his, that would be cool.
But the color scheme on this guy really jumps out. I love the red. It pops. It breaks up the white and the black. Like, it's just sharp. The boots.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took us this long to get this version, because as I mentioned, we've already had 5 or 6 Storm Shadows, and most people probably wanted the standard all-white ninja version first, but then very closely followed by this one. It's weird that they kind of gave us all these other versions before we get to this. But yeah, this is cool. I like it.
Aren't we getting another one with a polar bear? Or is that a different show?
That's Snake Eyes.
Of course it's Snake Eyes.
That's Snake Eyes from the cartoon with the irradiated hands and stuff. Yeah. All right, so I already just kind of previewed him here, but the next figure in this wave is Alpine. So this is the G.I. Joe Mountaineer, the original Mountaineer before Hit and Run. And yeah, I like this guy a lot. He was one I had as a kid. My brother Doug had that version of Storm Shadow when we were kids. Anytime my brother had a toy when we were kids, I have a slight less attachment to the character. So Alpine, he was one of my guys. He was a character that was featured pretty heavily in the cartoons. Him and Bazooka were pals.
Bazooka, yeah.
So yeah, I've always liked this guy. So yeah, it's a cool figure.
I can't remember. Was he a bumbling idiot too?
No, Bazooka was. This guy, he had kind of a goofy accent and just not like, I don't know. He wasn't played for a clown. He was kind of the smarter of the two. But they gave him a voice that was definitely recognizable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always liked him. I didn't necessarily love how Bazooka was portrayed.
Yeah.
I don't like it when they make characters, even characters like
squabbling idiots,
like Bebop in the Ninja Turtles cartoon or Beastman in the He-Man cartoon, because I want these bad guys to be menacing. I don't like them when they're dummies. And G.I. Joe is supposed to be the most elite fighting force
Yeah,
ever assembled, and you've got a guy that's tripping over his shoelaces all the time. It doesn't make sense.
Joe, he looks like a hybrid of Ernie Hudson and Billy D. Williams. I can't.
Yeah.
I have all these like weird things I think about, but yeah, I like this figure.
Yeah.
It's
I see more Billy D than
yeah,
but
Ernie Hudson. It's solid.
it is solid. He's got a lot of like I like that his hat and his goggles are removable because the original Alpine had the hat and the goggles were sculpted as part of his head. Now sometimes it worries me when they give us this stuff that comes off. Like, is a hat going to look weird or is the goggles going to be too big? But I think it actually looks pretty good on him. Like, it doesn't look awkward.
And we always complain about the goggles. So how do they fit on there?
Yeah, they fit nice.
Snug, nice.
Yeah. The original one didn't have a T-shirt of it. This guy's got an Idaho T-shirt, which I assume is his hometown. His home state, yeah. I don't remember from his file card, but I assume it is. Yeah, so he's got lots of nice accessories too. All the same stuff he had when I was a kid. So he's got his little like pickaxe, and he's got like a grappling hook, and he's got this rope around his torso. He's got a couple of guns.
Some carbineers, is that what they're called? Carabiners.
Yeah, which I don't think the original had anything like that. Now you can't actually use those, but it's just, of course, he should have those with him. Yeah. So it's cool that they added those to the sculpt. Yeah, it's a solid figure. I'm pretty pleased with him. All right, so next figure. Before I move on, though, did you have Alpine as a kid? Or
no?
All right. So this guy here, I was pretty excited about. Kind of what it means going forward, because this here is the Iron Grenadier. And this is the basic trooper, basically the equivalent of the blue shirt trooper of Destro's army, which because he owns his own company, Mars Industries, and he had his own private army, the Grenadiers. So now that they've opened the door with this guy, we will probably get the gold-headed Destro in his Grenadier outfit, which is a half cape, and it's a pretty cool look. And maybe we'll start getting some of the other Grenadier troopers as well. So anyway, thoughts on this guy?
I love this guy. I love troop builders. I love like army-looking dudes. This guy's
a straight-up Nazi-looking dude.
Yeah.
He's like a Kylo Ren Nazi.
I was just about to say he looks like Kylo Ren. But it's flashy. Like, I love this look.
The Nazis had nice uniforms. They wore the Hugo Boss outfits. So they were, don't get me wrong, they're terrible. I have nothing good to say about them. But cool outfits. I think most people do agree they had pretty snazzy outfits.
Yes.
And that's why you often see it knocked off in fiction.
Yeah. Like Fury and Inglourious Bastards.
Well, like those were real, Nazis.
Yeah, I guess.
And like Indiana Jones fights real Nazis. But then there's other like storylines, like Danger Girl comes to mind. Right. They fought a Nazi-like, and even Hydra in Marvel is like Nazi-like. And a lot of the characters wear Nazi-like uniforms because it is just it's a menacing, sleek look, and the Grenadier pulls it off. Like, it's a gold, red trim and everything. It looks sharp.
This is just so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to gold-headed Destro if we do get him, because
I'm sure
Destro is one of my guys.
Yeah. Now, one interesting thing about this guy, which leads me to believe we might get a retro card of this guy down the road too, is this might actually be an improvement. I don't know, but like this long coat he has with the tails on the back, the vintage figure did not have that. So they did have versions of the Iron Grenadier in the 4-inch line that had full like coats. So they've kind of taken the original figure, but with some of the later enhancements. And so if you're just he just dropped his sword. But if you're a straight up diehard of the original toy line, you might be a little annoyed that they changed the color of his pants and they gave him a longer jacket and some of those embellishments. But they might strip him down for the eventual retro.
What color were his pants originally? Black?
Yeah, he's all black.
All black. Okay.
This guy has black jacket and gray pants and black boots, which I think helps break up the figure a little bit. I think it looks nice, but this is the kind of figure I would definitely like to have more than one of in my collection. So I'm hoping, even if they just release the same figure with the same coat and everything, but just with black pants, I'll be like, cool, that's a variation.
That's different enough.
Yeah. So at least then I'm not buying the exact same figure twice.
At the same price.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd like to get more of these guys. So who knows? If these guys are half price a couple months down the road, I could see myself grabbing a couple more. But I love
Hasbro.
Yeah. Well, I am kind of surprised because for figures that would go on sale, I won't be surprised when we see Alpine on sale a couple of months from now. But the troopers often don't because
they're so popular.
Yeah, nerds like us want to have little. But I am kind of surprised at how many troopers I'm seeing discounted, like bats and alley vipers and things like on discount. And I'm like,
I'm wondering if it's just because the market's oversaturated with them.
I don't know. But it's definitely giving me some pause about, do I need to buy every one of these like as soon as it comes out? Could I maybe take a chance and wait on some of them and get them? Because even if it's like just, I find GameStop marks them down. Almost every figure is down like $5 after like a month. And I'm like, we buy a lot of figures. If I saved $5 on every figure, that adds up.
A lot of money.
It is. Now, speaking of the potentially growing Iron Grenadier army, this is something cool that they've never done before. So the Cobra Battle Android Trooper, better known as the Cobra BAT, they released that in the classified line a while ago, and then they repainted it, and then they repainted it, and then they repainted it. I don't know how many of them we have, 5 or 6?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, we've got the Crimson one, we've got the Snow one, we've got the Python Patrol one. Like, there's a lot. Anyway, now we've got an Iron Grenadier version of the BAT. So it's the same figure we already have a bunch of times, except he's in this really sharp-looking gold, red. We've never had this before. Like, we've had lots of variations of the BAT, but we've never had an Iron Grenadier BAT before. And I think he looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this, dude. The color scheme, again, just pops. The reds and the golds and the blacks. I mean, he's a bat, so he looks the same as any other bat, but...
Now, one thing that's nice when they keep re-releasing these bats is that they have added some new
different
features.
Accessories.
So this is the first one. Or maybe did the ice one have the chainsaw?
The ice one had the chainsaw.
Okay. So this guy's got the chainsaw accessory on his hand, which is really cool. The original bats did not have that. But also the Arctic bat was the first time that we saw the alternate head.
Yes. With the damage.
It kind of, well, I mean, like the cycloptic eye.
Yes, yeah, because it was like...
So this figure I did buy twice, even though it is the same figure. But when you've got a completely different head sculpt, it totally changes the look of the figure. Plus, I can display this guy with the claw and this guy with the chainsaw. So their arms are different, their heads are different. So yeah, I had to buy this guy twice. Plus, he also does come with the battle damaged chest piece or a clean chest piece. And one thing that was nice about buying this guy twice, and I know I told you I thought I threw them out.
Did you find them?
I found them. So each one of these figures comes with 2 clear chest pieces to go over the chest. One is clean and one is damaged. And when I opened these figures up, I opened this guy and I took the 2 clear pieces, but they're taped to the inside of the clear plastic bubble and they're almost invisible. And then I opened up the second guy and I put his other chest shield on him and I threw it all my plastic. And then it was like a couple days later, I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to take the plastic shields out of his packaging, but I already threw it in the garbage. But then I remember my recycling was still in my garage, so I was able to fish it out of there. So I did throw it out, but I didn't throw it out all the way to the curb. And what's nice about that is the classic bat figure had a clear chest. And when they gave us the first bat in classified, I don't know why, but they gave us just a solid black chest, so you couldn't see the inner workings, which is part of the fun of the bat. And I'm like, why did they give us this? And then the red version came out. Same thing. A solid black chest shield. Anyway, so now that I have these guys twice, that means I have 2 extra clear chest shields. So the first thing I did is I went and popped them on some of my other figures. So now I've got a bunch of these things. So that is just an added bonus of buying more than one, is you get more of those shields for your other bats.
I might have to get another bat. I know I did say eventually, maybe after Christmas, with some cash I get or something. But yeah, I love, because I bought 2 or 3 of each variation so that I could do the alternate heads.
Yeah, hopefully you ask Santa for a lot of shelves, because it sounds like you're going to need them.
I asked for at least 2.
All right, we got, I think, 3 figures left. These ones were all kind of one-offs. So that covers the whole wave of figures. So it was a wave of 4, 5 for me since I bought 2 back. This guy here I was pretty excited about. This guy we had to order from Hasbro Pulse exclusively. This here is Starduster. So I think it's a great figure. What are your thoughts on Starduster?
Yeah, I'm content with them. I think the visor's really nice.
Yeah.
I know there were some differences with the figure. Like, wasn't the visor sculpted on him on the vintage toy?
No,
No, or did he not have a visor or something?
no, he did. And that's one of the things I always thought was cool about this guy, although I did not have the vintage Starduster,
Okay.
is that I loved the G.I. Joes from the very first year of G.I. Joe 1982. Some of the Joes had just plain green helmets. They all had the same helmet essentially,
Yeah.
but some of them had a visor that could lower down over their eyes, which was just a clear plastic. But I just love that you could flip it up and flip it down. And then when Starduster came out, they used the same helmet on, but they gave him a black visor. It was still translucent, but it was
Right.
like tinted essentially. And I just thought that was so cool that there was like a tinted visor. So I never had that figure. I have the one from the 4-inch line. But yeah, I was really happy to get this one because the one in the 4-inch line actually sucked. I hated the build of him. He was weird looking. I think this guy looks incredible.
I know we often talk about how tight or loose the helmets are, and this is
It's a tight one.
snug. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's got a couple accessories that are noteworthy. Some of these figures that I'm showing you, I'm probably not showing you all the accessories because I've got a couple of baggies of them over here. It's too many to keep track of. They come with so much stuff. But this guy here, Starduster, was kind of his whole thing was like the jetpack. So this guy's got a jetpack on his back, but he also came with these little blast effects. So you can plug these little flames into the back of the pack, and it looks like he's taking off, which is awesome. I love that. He's got the visor on his helmet, which is great. But he also had an alternate head sculpt. If you want to pop this head on, so it's more. It looks more like Master Chief or something.
Master Chief, or yeah,
It's kind of a Halo style head,
yeah.
or whatever.
Let's stick with Master Chief.
And the other thing he has that's kind of funny. So in the same way that the Sergeant Slaughter figure came with a little Sergeant Slaughter action figure, and that was kind of almost like an inside joke because Sergeant Slaughter is a real guy, and in the 80s he would be in cartoon or in commercials trying to sell his own toy. So anyway, this guy, the reason I didn't have him as a kid is because he was not a regular retail release. Initially, you had to order him through Serial. And I don't think, if memory serves, that I could get that Serial. It might have not been available in Canada, or maybe sometimes they would say we only ship the toys to the states. So I can't remember exactly why I didn't get him, but I know he was not available to me. And so he comes with a little box of GI Joe cereal, just as a little joke to his origins. Now, apparently, this figure was available directly through Hasbro years later, but I never knew about that. Again,
How would you?
Well,
Because there was no internet.
no, but I think the way any kid probably knew about it is often you'd buy a GI Joe in the store, and they would be a little insert, like a little folded piece of paper. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Hasbro only sold them to American kids, so maybe those little foldy things didn't make it into Canadian toys, or maybe I've just forgotten about it. I don't know, but I did not know there was another way to get Starduster other than through the cereal. So anyway, I think this guy's built using I think a lot of the same parts as Retro Card Duke,
Yeah.
which I love that figure. And as much as I love Duke, I might love Starduster more just because at least he's a unique new character. I already had a couple of Dukes on my collection, so getting a new character with the same build, yeah, I just think it's super solid. This is a top dog for me.
He's a win.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, he's cool.
All right. I'm going to save what I think is the best for last, but I wanted this guy to be the best. I know some Joe fans don't like the really fantastical sci-fi elements of GI Joe, and I get it. like in the later years of GI Joe, when they started adding aliens, like space aliens. I don't know if you knew about that.
Nope.
I didn't like that. I wasn't collecting GI Joe anymore, but it was like Star Force, so it was like Roadblock and dressed as an astronaut, and then they had aliens. I didn't like the aliens. That's a bridge too far for me. But in the 1986 movie, they introduced an element called Cobra La, which was kind of this
Underground.
underground ancient society of like snake men that had like biological technology, so all their vehicles were like living bugs and stuff, and it was supposedly the society that Cobra Commander came from, and yada yada yada. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. It's classic. Anyway, so there was 3 toys in the vintage toy line from the Cobra La characters. You had Globulus, which was the guy with the big snake body, and then you had the General Infantry Trooper, which was just called the Royal Guardsman, and then you had Nemesis Enforcer, who was the enforcer. He was the muscle of the group, the brute, and for whatever reason, they've never redone Globulus ever again. There's only ever been that one version from 1987, and same as the Royal Guard, only from 1987. They did do a new Nemesis Enforcer in the 4-inch line, and now we've got a new version of Nemesis Enforcer. I hope this means that they'll give us the other 2 characters eventually, but this guy was only available on Hasbro Pulse. I just sneak in there and buy him quick because he sold out pretty quickly. But here he is. He's this dude with big old bat wings. You haven't opened this guy.
I haven't opened him yet, but I have a few gripes with him. Specifically, his face.
Yeah.
Like the digital rendering on his face looks terrible.
It's not great.
It's not clean. Like, it's hard to see his pupils and his eyes. Like, first time in hand.
I really wanted to love this guy. I like him. I do like him, but I don't love him. Because I just thought finally they could do something really cool with him. Because I have the one. Did you have the one when you were a kid? From 87?
No.
So in the movie, he was scary.
Yeah.
He was big. He had these huge blades that came off of his hands. He fought Sergeant Slaughter. Anyway, when the toy came out, he had these pathetic, sad little rubbery bat wings that were only had about this much of a wingspan, and his spiky shoulder spikes were just like little nubs. He was very underwhelming. And then when they did the version in the 4-inch line, he had bigger wings and he had bigger spikes, so it was a step in the right direction. But he was very skinny, and he couldn't hold the weight of his own wings, so he was always toppling over. So I thought maybe now they will finally nail it. And I think they did some things right here. I like how they did the wings.
The wings are good. I think the front of his body is way too busy, though, with like the swords here.
Yeah,
these things on his elbows or glove, whatever kind of. It's like they hinder.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like he's a nice figure, but the head it spoils it a little for me.
Well, so he does have these 2 like swords that are holstered or sheathed on his legs. Now those are part of the original sculpts, but they were just part of the sculpt. I didn't even really notice that they were there. They are kind of in the way now, and they kind of float around on his leg. They slide up and down. The head, I don't think the digital paint job looks as good. The eyes are a little too weird looking.
Yeah.
I like the wings, but I would have kind of liked a more traditional bat wing. Like, I don't mind how this looks, and I kind of get why they did it the way they did. But it's almost like it's like a big long arm with a bat wing on the end. I don't know, like it's different. And then the other gripe I have is his feet. Because he's got just 2 clawed toes. I don't have a problem with that, but I feel like his feet are too stubby. Like, if his feet were longer and the 2 claws came to a more natural, like a bird-like claw. But it looks like he's got...
It's almost like he has toenails coming right out of the nub of his foot.
Yeah, like where his toes would be, his foot just... Like, it's too weird looking. And he's good and beefy up top, so to have this big... And then have these little Hellboy feet on him, he looks... I don't know. It looks a little funny. So for a figure that I really wanted them to nail, and that he was expensive because he's like a deluxe figure, they missed the mark on this guy a little bit. And where you don't like the head sculpt, they did give us an alternate one, but it's got the same problems.
Yeah.
I don't know where I put it, to be honest with you. You'll see it in the insert shot. But, and I'm not sure what it's based on, because this looks like the vintage head, and it looks like the cartoon. But the other version, it's got these like a bony armor on it, which might be based on one of the comic books or something. It's cool. I'll probably stick with the classic look. But if that new head had like better eyes or something, I might have even went with that head just but they both have weird eyes and yeah.
Now, how do the wings? Can the wings like fold in?
Not really.
Because
like
I would have liked to have seen more raptor-like wings.
there is some movement here.
Because that's going to take up a lot of display space.
Yeah, he does take up a decent amount of room here. But
because that's at least a foot.
Now, you do have another option, by the way. So just like the vintage toy. Now, I always thought this was kind of weird because in the movie he has bat wings. They're like are part of him biologically. Yeah. At one point in the movie, I don't know if it's him or Globulus, but they throw like a little squiddy thing in somebody and it gets spores in their face. I think that's what makes Roadblock go blind.
Yeah.
But the vintage toy, he came with bat wings that plugged into his back, and then he also came with this like green rubber octopus that plugged into his back. And I was like, I don't know what that's supposed to, like. Who would display him with tentacles like an octopus? It looks weird. But this guy comes with the same thing. So you can actually pop these off, and you could give him the tentacles if you so chose. It doesn't look bad. It just...
No, it looks kind of weird.
So yeah, he's got these little tentacles, which they seem a little small. Like if they were going to be menacing, he couldn't really grab anybody. They could barely reach around his whole torso. So like that's the thing. I don't really get it, but since it's true to the vintage toy, I do get why they're here. But one thing that is neat about these things is I'll display him with the wings, but I never ever thought to use that little octopus as anything before. But you notice this thing has a beak. Huh. Like it's almost like, and you can display so it becomes like a creature in and of itself. So you can display this next to him. It's almost like a little pet now.
Okay.
And arguably, you could almost do the same thing with the wings because it looks like it almost has these two little eyes. Yeah. And you can kind of make it walk like this, and it's almost its own weird little creature too.
Yeah, so, I can see that.
So that's kind of fun that you can turn these into
little minions.
Little animals. Yeah. So anyway, he's not bad, but I wish he was better. Now, I don't know if you'll feel the same way as me, but my favorite figure from this whole lot is this next one I want to talk about. He was a favorite of mine when I was a kid. It is the Dreadnought Roadpig. Now, I have seen some reaction from people online that really don't. They really don't like the changes that the current team made to this guy over at Hasbro. But I love it. I think all the improvements just make him better. Anyway,
I never had him as a kid, but I am a fan of this figure. I wouldn't say he's my favorite. I would say he's the runner-up. I really like the first Iron Grenadier.
Yeah.
Figure that takes it for the wave, but
yeah, I didn't mention, but the Iron Grenadier, I had the same issue with him as I do with Storm Shadow. Is I feel he feels a little short, a little short. So that's one strike against this guy for me.
But this guy is solid.
He's super cool. Like Roadpig. In the vintage toy line, there was almost no discrepancy in people's sizes. It's like every G.I. Joe, every Cobra was kind of like the same height and the same body weight. You know, it was just that's the way it went. Roadpig, I think, was probably, if not the first attempt, one of the first attempts of trying to give a different body size because he was shirtless and he was big and bulky. Like his muscles, like
nailed it.
Yeah, so I think here they really changed his body shape. He does not look like any other figures we've got so far. He's really girthy. He's short. He's a little short himself too, but he's stout. And I think his stature works for him, for his whole like the size of him, the shape of him. I think it looks great.
Remind me what that A is again.
Anarchy.
Right.
Now, one thing I do have a slight gripe about is he always had that Anarchy tattoo dating back to the vintage toy, but he never had a tattoo on his belly before. This one, they put Dreadnought on his belly, but it is barely legible. It's just like a black.
Yeah, you can't.
But in my mind, I can kind of imagine these guys are hooligans. They're drunk idiots. They're the kind of guys that would give themselves tattoos when they're like in their little cabin at night, like in their hideout or whatever. I can imagine him having done that tattoo like himself, or or get one of the other dreadnoks to do it, and it being bad. Like if I had this toy when I was a kid, I could imagine that being like a
He'd
running
be
joke. The other
badass.
guys would like tease him about like you got that tattoo, nobody
Yeah.
can read it. Anyway, so I don't mind it for that reason, in that it's intentionally sloppy.
And they gave him actual nipples. That's really funny. Like right under the armor. Like
Yeah.
I
Chad,
didn't go looking for it.
Chad,
It
you
just
did go looking for him.
no, just the way, just the way this piece, the nipple was visible.
I've
So
had this
I
figure open
rolled
on
it
my
up.
desk for a couple of weeks. I've never once looked for his nipples. You've had him for 2 minutes in your hands, and you're already like scoping with the nipples.
I love the cinder block hammer though. That's cool.
Yeah, he's always had the cinder block hammer, which is really cool.
Was it the shield he never had?
Well, in the first version, he had two things that clipped onto his wrist. He had this
Yeah.
little like crossbowy
Crossbow
thing, but his other one he had like a goalie blocker.
Yes. Okay.
But then in the 4-inch version, they replaced the goalie blocker with a street sign. So it was like a bent up, like it looked like a road sign. It was one of those big green rectangle ones, and it said like Alligator Alley, I believe. So it looked like he ripped one of those off and used it as a shield, which again was very, DIY dreadnought. It was, it suited the character. So they've got rid of the road sign, which I actually kind of miss. They did give him a cool new shield. It's like the same shield I think we saw with the Alley Viper or something. Maybe it's like a SWAT like shield.
And Shockwave.
Yeah, Shockwave. Yeah. It might not be the exact one, but it's similar style.
Similar style.
So he's got all that stuff. But then his accessories, he's got some great stuff. So for one, he's got another head where he's got this deranged smile on his face.
I might display him with that.
And this character in the comic books, he was like a split personality. I want to say Donald was his name. And Donald was like a very smart, well-spoken, almost like overly articulate. Like you would never believe, like he's so well-read. But then he would switch to his dumb personality. He'd talk like Tarzan, essentially, and he'd turn into a big dummy. So I like that those two heads kind of fit like his two personalities. Yeah. So that's cool.
So this is like the dummy head.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that's what they're referencing, but that's what makes me think of. But then they also gave him this third head, which looks like something out of a Saw movie, in that it's like this hog skin with like a spiked biker helmet.
And that's the actual head, right? Like that plugs.
So it doesn't go on his head. It's you take the head off and you plop that right on the neck ball. So it's like he's wearing this thing over his head, which is again crazy. It looks like something out of Mad Max or something like. Mm-hmm. And then they gave him a second hammer, and this thing is a beast. It's a big metal mallet with a hog head, and it's like a meat tenderizer.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine him pummeling you with that thing?
Thank you.
I never thought I would rather get hit with a cinder block on a stick, but like I would not. I would not want to get hit with.
Yeah, this even has like more weight to it than the.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just like the cinder block is just so him that I can't display him with the other one, but I love that other piece. That's really cool. And
that is, yeah.
And another really cool thing that he never had before in any of his previous incarnations, he's got an animal sidekick. So now he's got this pit bull named Ruckus. And it's a really nice sculpt. He's got two heads, so he's got like a kind of a neutral head and a growling head. And he's like well articulated. He's big and a beefy little dog too. Like it's another great.
They're just knocking these little sidekicks out of the park lately.
Yeah. So between the sculpt of Roadpig, the added accessories, the dog, like
he's got the little scar going over the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
This is my favorite figure of the bunch for sure. And he's without a doubt going to make my best of the year list. I don't know where he's going to rank, but I love this figure.
Yeah. This is a deluxe figure.
Yeah. We paid for it, but I don't mind.
No, he's got some weight to him too.
Because even those other figures, like the 60th anniversary ones, not to say they're not worth it, but you're not going to see the value like what we paid for on my shelf. Because the parachute, cool, but it goes in a bin. The extra heads, cool, but they go in a bin. This guy here, he's got all the weapons. He's got the dog. Like it shows that you paid a little bit more for him, and just the size of the figure himself. He's really nice.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
All right. So now technically we are done talking about GI Joes,
We are done talking about Joes.
but I want to talk about one more figure.
That is not a Joe.
Right. But like I did the other day, I shot a video which I posted, and hopefully you guys have all watched already.
If not, go watch it.
Yeah, it was my what I called kind of my final miscellaneous episode of the year, because I'm really trying not to buy myself any more new toys this month because Christmas is in a couple of weeks. Not only do I need money to buy presents for other people, but I also, my brother and my wife, are going to buy me some presents, so I don't want to like. So I round up all my toys and I said, all right, I'm going to review everything. And so this figure here, I almost reviewed it in that episode because it falls under the umbrella of miscellaneous. But I thought, you know what? I think this guy would be better suited to fit into my GI Joe video.
Because he kind of looks like a Joe.
Yeah. Now you and me have already talked about this guy off camera a little bit, but there's this company called Fresh Monkey Fiction. I don't really know how it works because it's Fresh Monkey Fiction. I think in conjunction with Toy Otter, maybe.
Subsidiary, yeah.
But anyway, these guys have done a few toys, and I have some of their toys, but they've mostly been doing like 4-inch figures. And I've been pleased with the results. I'm like, they're making quality stuff. But in the last year or so, they've decided to branch out into 6-inch figures, and they've been doing pre-sales for their own 6-inch line. And there's multiple lines. I think they've got 3 different lines, and they all look cool. It's a new line with not based on any previous media, and I'm like, I just can't
justify.
I can't get into another line because they're not cheap either. Their base figures are $37 American. That's like $50 Canadian, and then the shipping and the customs. Like this guy here, if I split the shipping and everything on my last and per figure, this guy cost me about $75, and he is not a $75 figure. He's nice, but he's not $75. So it's definitely preventing me from ordering more in the line. But man, I was excited about this figure. And this is another guy, spoiler alert, he's probably going to make my best of the year list. So, this guy here, you'll see it says Sleepwalker on his display base. I think his name's actually a little bit longer than that. It's like Crimson Moon, Sleepwalker, Trooper, something like that. But so this is from their toy line called Monster Force, which is billed as kind of like army soldiers fighting monsters. So there's like a Dracula in the line. There's like a mummy kind of guy. There's like an Invisible Man kind of guy. Because the Universal monsters are in the public domain, so they can do their own take on all those guys. And then the soldiers are kind of their own creation. They're cool, but I kind of thought, as cool as they are, I'm not going to buy them. But then when I saw this guy, so this is a nod, a very obvious, like it's not subtle, to an Action Force figure. So we've talked about this on the show before, but I'll give you guys a quick little history lesson again. So the G.I. Joes of the 80s were very popular in the States, that they eventually, other companies from around the world imported them and sold G.I. Joes under their own brands in different countries. A lot of times the figures were just sold as the same thing. So Snake Eyes was Snake Eyes. But sometimes they would repaint a character and give him a new name and even change him from a good guy to a bad guy. So there's a lot of kind of funky international G.I. Joes from around the world. Over in the UK, they were selling their own line of 3 3/4-inch army figures called Action Force. And they only had 5 points of articulation, so more like a Kenner Star Wars figure. But it was Action Force, and they fought a team called the Red Shadows. Now, I didn't know any of this at the time because it was only in the UK and no internet and whatever. But then Palitoy, which was the company that produced Action Force, when they saw what Hasbro was doing with G.I. Joe, making far superior figures than what they were doing, they were like, why don't we just license the Hasbro figures and bring them over and stop doing the 5 points for articulation? So they did that. So they kept the name Action Force, but it slowly kind of transitioned on all the G.I. Joe characters were now being sold under Action Force. And the way they connected the old figures, like the Red Shadows, is that the leader of the Red Shadows, Baron Ironblood, took on the identity of Cobra Commander. Like he changed his. So they had their own fiction over in the United States or in the UK that kind of tied the Red Shadows. They became Cobra essentially, and this was their basic trooper from the Red Shadows. So the toy of this guy was part of the G.I. Joe line in the UK, but he was only 5 points of articulation. Anyway, I just love kind of the connection and the lore and the history. And then in the comic books published by Devil's Due in like the early 2000s, they integrated the Red Shadows into the mainline North American G.I. Joe line for the first time, and like that really kind of opened up. This is where I started learning about all this stuff. And anyway, to see this figure in the 6-inch scale, he matches perfectly with the classified figures. Like
Crimson Guard even.
Yeah, scale wise, detail wise, like he doesn't look out of place. Their articulation is very similar. And he came with a ton of cool shit. Like he's got a really nice display base, as you can see here. Then he's got a funky backpack, and there's little holes on all sides of the backpack, and you can put in hoses, or you can put in these little dials, and these are all removable, so you can kind of custom the backpack. He came with a bunch of guns,
and that's a badass flamethrower.
And I think they're more like funky lasers. Like here, take a look at him for a sec. But he's got all kinds of guns, and he's got all kinds of tubes and all kinds of blast effects. So you can, like, I have that kind of laser beam coming out of it, but like this one here, like you could put this on like the muzzle of the gun, and it's kind of this cool like crackle effect.
Yep.
And then you can put this like bulb in part of it and stuff. So it's like there's really cool stuff here. He's got 3 heads. So besides the one that you see there, he's got this kind of cool gas mask head.
That's probably how I would display.
And then he's got this head.
Actually,
the one head, this one here reminds me of the miner from the horror movie, like, what is it, Bloody Valentine?
Bloody Valentine 3D or whatever.
That's what that reminds me of. This one here is kind of their own original take. These are both cool heads, but if these were the only heads it came with, I wouldn't have bought this guy. It's like when I saw that head, because they didn't advertise that head was coming.
Right.
I saw this figure had gone up for pre-sale, and I could clearly tell from the neck down it was supposed to be Red Shadows. But they didn't do the head, and I thought, they probably could only take it so far without getting like sued or something. But then I saw an early review of it, and the guy reviewing it just kind of nonchalantly said, "Yeah, you got these 3 heads to choose from." I'm like, "Where'd you get that head?" And so I went to Big Bad Toy Store, because these are exclusive to Big Bad Toy Store, by the way. So I went to check in the list, and it says only 2 heads. And I was like, what? So I actually emailed Fresh Monkey Fiction. I was like, I saw a review that said this guy came with a Red Shadows head, and I would totally buy this in a second if it does. But like, none of the marketing shows the head or describes the head. And they're like, yeah, it was supposed to be like a surprise bonus gift. And I was like, all right, sweet. So I ordered him, and yeah, now he's got that head on him. He looks awesome.
This screams one of my favorite franchises of Wolfenstein.
Yep.
Because, again, we were talking about Nazis earlier. He screams Nazi, but he also screams like he's something right out of Wolfenstein, because there is a character that looks almost identical to this with... Sorry, that's the first time I coughed. It's the same backpack, and he's got a flamethrower, almost identical. That's a cool figure.
Yeah, like with the shape of the helmet and everything, he's obviously very Nazi inspired. He's got the band on his arm with the logo. It's not a swastika, but it's their own Red Shadows logo. Now you can get the same figure in black, which looks much more Nazi-like, and you can also get one in a very kind of like military green, which also looks kind of like, you know, a Nazi soldier on the field or something. So I'm tempted to get all 3 variations. Like I said, they're expensive, so I'm probably going to wait a little bit, but I definitely wanted this guy as soon as I had the chance. Now I do have a complaint though. When I got this guy, I thought like he was going to shoot to the top of my best of the year list, because not only is it a well-made figure, but for me, I factor in a lot of my personal attachment or the lore, the history, and I just think this guy's got such a cool little history. But then I do have to consider the construction of the figure. Like, we got that McFarlane Darkseid figure earlier this year that we were so excited about, but then we got him in hand and his arms were falling off. Yeah, the quality wasn't there. This guy here, as soon as I started trying to pose him and take pictures on my Instagram, his arm just kept falling out of the socket. Like, this one here, it's like if I try and lift his arm, like,
that's annoying.
It just plops right out of there with like no force whatsoever. Now,
paying that much money, that's disappointing.
It is, and I'm like, that's ridiculous how easy that arm comes out. And like, see, there's a little notch on the top and the bottom. They do kind of just fit back into place. Like, it plugs in with it, but it takes no force to there's like no resistance to that arm coming out of its socket. I don't know if it's the same for the other arm because I've been too scared to even
Right.
move it. And I haven't even moved him that much. I don't know if his legs are going to start falling out if I move him. He looks fantastic displayed on a shelf, but the fact that at least one of his arms just falls out of place as soon as you touch it, that's a big strike against it.
Is that consistent across the board with this figure? Or is that
I
just
don't know.
yours?
When I saw, are you familiar with the website, the Fwoosh?
Yep.
And there's a guy that used to be on that. Now he's on his own, Robo. Anyway, guy with a big old beard. He's a toy review guy that's been around for a long time. Anyway, he got sent the whole wave of figures to do like an early review of it, and he raved about the whole thing. And he was posing them all. I didn't see anybody's arms fall off.
Okay.
Now, maybe he was lucky, or maybe he was being kind and not showing it, or I don't know, or maybe I just got unlucky here. But I definitely have to take that into consideration when I'm like scoring this figure later.
That's a pain in the ass or something. Like, I love supporting independent companies like that produce good products, and having that happen, that's like,
it's a bummer.
That's a bummer. It's borderline McFarlane sloppiness.
Anyway, we're over an hour now, so we should probably wrap it up. Any final thoughts?
I might have a changed opinion on Roadpig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like him?
Now that I've manhandled him a bit, and
yeah, good.
He might take over the Iron Grenadier.
Nice. All right. Well, anyway, congratulations on your 75th episode. That's a little bit of a milestone. Did you ever think when I first invited John that we'd be doing 75 of these things?
No, because originally it was just Mike's collection, and then we're like, oh, well, actually, let's start a little sub-series. And I don't think you told me that until about maybe 10 episodes in. You're like, yeah, I just started a subsection, and it grew from there. So yeah, no, that's awesome. I definitely didn't think we'd be doing 75. I'm glad we are.
Yeah, like
Thanks.
in total, like the Mike's collection channel is now 340 episodes or something. Eh? Like once you and I cross over the 100 threshold, like we could be in syndication at that point.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Stay tuned for another one. I might make him do another one tonight if you want to. So anyway, we'll see you next time.
Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments. Thanks so much for your support.
Ciao.
Keep collecting.